man, I have no sound. I had no sound. Does that suck or what, man? Does that suck or what? I just looked at your comments just now. You know what? We will just rewind it and then I will start as if nothing had happened. I don't know what happened there. Usually I don't have to click the unmute button, but I did tonight. Are we back? All right, you got me, man. You got me now. I will just start as if I just clicked on, start broadcast. That's what we will do right now. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. That's funny, man. The Dallas Cowboys roster we will know what the Cowboys 53-man roster will look like next Tuesday. And we will talk about one of the position groups that fascinates me the most about this team. Because, we have talked about the defensive line and how it will shape out, who will be cut, who will not be cut. But wide receiver will play a big role into how this final roster will look like. Specifically, Michael Gallup's health status could determine a lot, and it could throw a change up our way and maybe change a few things about what we think we know about the wide receiver position for the Dallas Cowboys. So we'll talk about that later in the show. We will talk about the biggest lesson from the Micah Parsons film breakdown that we got to see on the ADC Sports Film Room channel, analysis made by James Foster. And towards the end of the show, we will talk about a Mike McCarthy roast that was out there on a national podcast. And I couldn't stop laughing when I heard it. So I will play that 1-minute clip for you guys, and we will talk about it for sure. And we'll have some fun tonight. Man, I'm sorry about that rough start. Now we're on. Now we've got audio here. Let's see. Mo looking like Dallas in the playoffs. His low start. That is exactly what happened. We had a couple of drives in which we saw some 2nd and 7, some 3rd and 10s, but now we're back. Thank you to Kenneth. Thank you to Samuel and Joe and everyone who is here. Welcome into the show. Hit the like button. Apologies for the volume problem at the beginning of the show. Now that more of us are here, though, let's start the show officially. How about that? Here we go. What is up, everyone? Welcome into ADC Sports Dallas Primetime. I'm your host, Mauricio Rodriguez, streaming with you live every Sunday through Thursday night at 8 p.m. Central. Sometimes you can hear me, sometimes you can't. All kidding aside, welcome into the show. It is presented to you by our friends over at FreemanMazda.net. We will talk more about them and the ride of the week in a few moments here on the show. And remember that for more Cowboys content, you can check out adcsports.com/Dallas. We've got a lot of Cowboys articles up there every single day. News, analysis, opinion, a little bit of everything. And it's going to get exciting. Once the regular season starts, we will have some preview pieces. We will have some recap articles as well. So that will be fun. And of course, you will catch me every single night here on Primetime. And tonight, by the way, we will talk about some roster questions, specifically a big one at wide receiver. Michael Gallup's health status really plays a big factor into how the Cowboys' final 53 will look like, because there's a big question that we really don't know the answer to. For most of the offseason, we have talked about the fact that the Cowboys will not have Michael Gallup for the first few weeks of the season. But we really don't know how many of them he will actually miss. Michael Gallup has confirmed that he will not be ready to go in week 1, but you've got Todd Archer reporting that he could miss 2 games only. We've got people pretty much assuring us that he will miss 4 weeks. There are some saying that 6 weeks, some saying 8 games. So we have not had any sort of clarity about where Michael Gallup stands in his recovery. The only couple of things we know, according to what the team has said publicly and Gallup has said publicly, is that he will miss game number 1 versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. By the way, Tom Brady will be playing in that game. He is back from his family vacation. He was not in the Masked Singer. He is back. And then number two is the number two thing we know about Gallup's recovery is that there have been no setbacks. So he is trending in the right direction. But my question from me to you guys is in the chat. And by the way, do me a favor and hit the like button, because every like puts this show in front of more Cowboys fans. Gut feeling. Is Gallup on IR/PUP to start the season, or does he remain a healthy scratch? The question being, do the Cowboys think he could be ready to say for game 3 of the regular season? And if so, he should be an active roster player, to put it one way, and he would be taking one spot out of the 53. So what's your gut feeling? Will he be on IR/PUP to start the season, or is he a healthy scratch? Because this is the wide receiver room, and this is where things get interesting, in my opinion. Say that you are the Dallas Cowboys, and you think he will be back by week 3 or week 4. He's taking up a roster spot. Now, the Cowboys do play some tough games early in the season, so you want him to be back as soon as possible. You don't want to rush him back. You don't want to risk an injury. But if you think he will be ready for week 3 or week 4, you carry him on that roster, probably. Week 4 is a little bit more controversial, right? And if that's the case, it gets very interesting, because you've got CeeDee Lamb right now. You've got CeeDee Lamb, Jalen Tolbert, Noah Brown, Simi Fehoko, Turpin, and Houston. Those are the 6 wide receivers that are likely to be in this 53-man roster when the final cuts are made. But if Gallup is ready to go week 3, you carry him, and what do? Do you have 7 wide receivers on the team? Or do you maybe surprisingly cut Dennis Houston or maybe Simi Fehoko? Because I will tell you what, the players that are locks to make this team at wide receiver, obviously Lamb, Tolbert. Noah Brown is a roster lock. Simi Fehoko is starting to look like one, but I don't know that he's 100% yet. Kevontae Turpin is a roster lock, just based on the comments by Mike McCarthy after Saturday's game. He was asked if he's making the 53, and then he just laughed and he said, you know what? There's a high chance he returns kicks versus Tampa Bay. And he is the team specialist. And after 2 touchdowns on Saturday night, he will be there. Now, Gallup obviously either starts in PUP or IR. I mean, he will be a part of this team when he comes back for sure. But what I'm saying is, if you think he's ready for week 3, do you get a surprise cut at wide receiver? I would say Fehoko and Houston being the players that would be at the utmost risk. Or do you carry 7 wide receivers and maybe it costs you a roster spot in another position group across the entire team? So let's see some of your gut feelings right now. Gallup on PUP, says Samuel Rowe. Toxic Tom says PUP as well. 6 to Midnight says IR. Jose Christian saying Gallup is not going on PUP because he will be back by week 3 or week 4. Healthy scratch, says Lumen. Gregory with PUP. Let's see. Mo Ivan saying spooky season, says Bruce got the toxic use. So if he's ready for spooky season, then I'm guessing Bruce is aiming towards a start at PUP, right? 4 games is the PUP limit, says 6 to Midnight. It is. Gallup equals November, says James Ruff. So James even more skeptical about where Gallup is in his recovery. I think October is looking like the worst case scenario, but maybe I am being optimistic. I've said it before. The one reporter that is out there putting a more defined timetable is Todd Archer, and he's been saying 1 to 2 games for a while now, and he's been speculating a lot about the fact that Gallup could be taking a spot on this roster, even if he is a healthy scratch to begin the season. Not a healthy scratch. So now that I am thinking about it, healthy scratch is not the right term. It's just inactive, right? An inactive wide receiver on game day. Jose Cristian says Tolbert is basura. I don't know. I talked about this last night. I talked about how, to me, he was one of the weekend's losers. I'm not pressing the panic button, though, at all. I'm not even concerned about Jalen Tolbert, but he does need to do some things better. And, he's had 2 drops in preseason games, and it was likely on him not to be inbounds for what would have been a touchdown pass from Cooper Rush on Saturday night. But I'm not pressing the panic button, though. Professor O says, sorry, I am late to class. I'm late class. Go ahead and open your textbooks to page 14. Shout out to Professor O, who's here on the show. Now, big question, though, as well. Once Gallup returns, whether it's week 3, whether it's week 6 or 7, starting the season on PUP or whatever it is, when he returns, who's the odd man out for you the moment Gallup returns? Out of the other likely 6 wide receivers to make the team, who's the odd man out? Let me know your answers in the chat, whether you're watching on Facebook or YouTube. Let me know who's your odd man out the moment that Gallup returns. While you give me your answers, though, and before I give you mine, let me talk to you about our friends over at freemanmazda.net, because as always, we've got the Ride of the Week segment, and this time we're talking about the CX-5 Grand Touring. This is a special vehicle. You can check it out on the website to look the interiors, the pictures of the interiors, the exterior as well, but it's got all-wheel drive, 3rd row seating, perfect for families, adaptive cruise control, Wi-Fi hotspot, a feature that I cannot get over, sunroof, and a miles per gallon capacity of 20 in the city. That goes up to 26 in the highway. Check out freemanmazda.net, because when you pick Freeman Mazda, you are choosing a lifelong partnership for your car dealership. Check it out once more. That is freemanmazda.net. Let's see. Houston, Brown, Noah Brown, says James Ruff. I'm actually surprised at reading Noah Brown answers. James says Noah Brown. Samuel also said Brown. We've got Mark Andrew on Facebook and Gregory with Brown. That's interesting. That's something that I didn't expect. Honestly, I thought most answers would be between Dennis Houston, the undrafted free agent, and Simi Fehoko. Professor O says Houston. Ha Lee says Houston. King Element, Houston for sure. 6 to Midnight says Washington or Fehoko. So what I am thinking is Washington likely starts the season on IR. So I would guess he makes the initial roster, is put on IR, and then the Cowboys by game day have other wide receivers there. Brown, I believe we will be okay, says Greg Turner. Definitely Houston. Houston, we have a problem, says Lumen. Fehoko will be a huge red zone target this year, says Jose Cristian. And Kenneth Fraser goes with Houston on Facebook. Honestly, right now, I am leaning towards Dennis Houston. I'm excited about him for sure, but he is an undrafted free agent. So just going by the likelihood of things, I am guessing the Cowboys end up, trying to find a way to get Dennis Houston into the practice squad. It's going to be interesting, though, because they will be competing even when the season starts. So Fehoko and Dennis Houston, who to me are the 2 most likely to be the ones out, they're going to be competing beyond training camp, beyond the preseason. That will be something to watch. And if they get playing time, if they see the playing field on offense, they're going to have to do the most out of the few opportunities that they get. And of course, they will also have to show up in special teams for John Fassel. Fehoko has a little bit of more experience there, just in being a returning player from last season. So I would lean towards Dennis Houston being the odd man out. I will say this: Noah Brown is likely having a bigger role than many Cowboys fans think in 2022. Just going by the fact that he is getting rest, he is not getting played out there in the preseason. And we've seen in training camp, we've seen him really take a starting role with Michael Gallup and James Washington out with injuries. Because right now, you've got Noah Brown getting asked to be a little bit more than a run blocking wide receiver. He's out there running legit routes. He's out there being used as an actual wide receiver, which is a new thing maybe for him with the Dallas Cowboys. And he's also been responding very positively so far in the preseason and in training camp. So I think that Noah Brown is safer than many would say. I actually was surprised at seeing some of your responses on the chat, because many people said Noah Brown. Now, you might be right. The Cowboys might end up getting super surprised about Dennis Houston and then decided to get rid of Noah Brown, but it would be a surprise. Let's see. ACL injuries are like stuffing your toe now, says Jose Cristian. And, of course, that is an exaggeration, but Jose is on something. Gallup might really be ready for week 3, man. I wouldn't dismiss that possibility. Did Shift says, who are our top offensive weapons in the pass game? Honestly, I would say it's CeeDee Lamb, Dalton Schultz. I'm not sure who's number 3, though. I'm not sure. Hopefully, it's Jalen Tolbert at some point. I know he has not showed up in the preseason as we would like him to, but that's not the end of the world. Just think about Jamar Chase dropping every single football thrown his way as a rookie in training camp last year. I'm not saying that Tolbert will be Jamar Chase, just saying sometimes they learn these things quickly. And Tolbert has not had like a terrible training camp. It's not like we've heard bad reports about Tolbert out of Oxnard. That didn't happen. He actually had a solid camp as a rookie. But by a wide margin, CeeDee Lamb and Dalton Schultz are the 1-2 punch of this team in the passing game, I would say. Now, one thing you want to see from Dalton Schultz is maybe get him a little bit more involved in more vertical routes, and maybe try to get him to be a little bit more of a deep threat as well in the passing game. Because for a long time, we've talked about Dalton Schultz not being targeted deeply in the passing game. And you look at the average depth of target for a lot of tight ends in the NFL, and Dalton Schultz is more or less average in that category, even though he finished the season as one of the most productive and most efficient tight ends in 2021. I would like to see more of that from him. The Cowboys will get him in several situations in which he's sometimes lined up as the 2 from the outside in. So you've got a wide receiver on the sidelines, and then Dalton Schultz as a number 2, and then another wide receiver. So Dalton Schultz maybe is lined up wider a lot of the times. I would like to see vertical routes from that position, for example, from Dalton Schultz. Bob Sturm, about a couple of months ago, wrote about how the Chiefs will get in these 3-by-1 formations, 3 receivers to one side, another receiver to the other side as the isolated guy. And Bob Sturm wrote about how the Chiefs used Travis Kelce as the isolated guy, and he can win that way. Could we see something similar from Dalton Schultz? Those are important questions. Schultz is not going to be Travis Kelce, but will the Cowboys get him in a position to dictate coverages? Something that really didn't happen last year. Because if he's going to be your number 2 weapon in your passing game, you likely need to be able to strike some fear in defensive units with your tight end. Let's see. Jay Bird says, hey, Mo, Dalton is great and finds the open field. But if he goes down, I think Ferguson has a chance of taking number 1. Thoughts? Well, as long as he's injured, Ferguson is your backup. I will say that it would be optimistic to think that Ferguson has a shot at taking Dalton Schultz's role in year one. I mean, as I said, if Dalton Schultz goes down while he's injured, of course, Ferguson steps in as the number one at tight end. But I think Ferguson will take time. That's just natural. And I'm excited about Jake Ferguson. But Dalton Schultz became one of the most productive tight ends in the NFL. So maybe that's a tall ask of a day 3 draft pick in year one. I'm excited about Ferguson. I'm excited about the fact that he can block the way that he blocks. He's willing. I think that Dalton Schultz is a better blocker than many people say. And this could actually be a pretty cool duo for what the Cowboys want to do. Are we in love with what the Cowboys want to do offensively? Maybe not, but at least they fit what the coaching staff wants to do. And knowing that that's what the Cowboys will operate under, that should be exciting up to some point. Toxic Tom says, I have Schultz in my Dynasty League, a good tight end. If you can't land an elite one, especially in PPR, other than that, I'm not going to read the rest of that. But yeah, Toxic Tom is right. Dalton Schultz is a pretty solid pick for a PPR league. By the way, I was going to do it, man. I was just a small parenthesis here. We are what? Less than 1 month away from the regular season. I was this close to getting to the NFL kickoff without a single fantasy football league. Let me tell you something about myself. I don't like fantasy football that much. I really don't. It's not my thing. And it's funny because, for example, I've got friends that know that I do this and know that I love football and know that I live for the NFL. And they're always asking me for fantasy football advice. And I just give them what I know in terms of the NFL, but I've never really studied how to actually win in fantasy football. Not to mention, I am exactly the kind of guy that forgets the lineups, that is never really just looking out for waivers, seeking trades. I'm not that guy. I was so close to getting to the season without any fantasy football league, but it looks like I am joining one with some content creators in Mexico of NFL football. Professor O says, make sure to hit the like button or I will sneak into your bedroom and flick you in the ear while you are sleeping. You don't want Professor O to do that, so hit the like button. Remember that every like puts this show in front of more Cowboys fans. Let's see. 2 weeks, baby. So 6 to midnight. 2 weeks. 2 weeks for the regular season. Jose Christian says, I thought you would say that you dance to Ricky Martin in the shower. Who doesn't, Jose Christian? Who doesn't dance to Ricky Martin in the shower, right? I'm a singer. I'm a shower singer. I will tell you that. Mo draft kickers early and often. They fly off the board fast. There you go. There you go. I'm getting some fantasy football advice right now. Anyways, moving on to the next topic. And this is more of an invitation to check out the ADC Sports Film Room breakdown on Micah Parsons. It's quick, and this is what I love about this YouTube channel. You guys need to subscribe to it. The videos are about 5 to 6 minutes long, things like that. James Foster gets to the point. He breaks down a player. He talks about his strengths, about his weaknesses, and he put together a breakdown of Micah Parsons. I recommend you go check it out after prime time is over. But here is the quote that I liked the most out of the entire breakdown of Micah Parsons. He's talking about how impressive it was that Parsons, being a new player to the position, because, you know, he was playing linebacker in his final year in Penn State, then didn't play. He opted out of the COVID season. And then he starts playing edge rusher after an offseason of preparing as an off-ball linebacker for the Cowboys. And James Foster, the analyst for ADC Sports Film Room, points out how impressive it was that Parsons has such a wide range of pass rushing moves. And he talked about that being impressive for a player that was learning the position. And then here's this quote. Compared to other pass rushers, Micah Parsons is so much quicker with his feet, so he can use a really wide range of moves. And even if the hand placement or timing isn't perfect, everything is happening so much faster from the offensive tackle's perspective that it doesn't really matter. I love that quote, and I love it for a lot of reasons. And we talked about this before on the show. And this is the perfect moment to throw out this question here in the chat. True or false, Micah Parsons will be even better in year number 2. We've talked about this plenty throughout this offseason. There's this narrative out there. There's this storyline saying that, players will catch up to Micah Parsons' speed. He's a one-year wonder. He will not be the same. Sophomore slump, blah, blah, blah. But I've said this before, man. One thing is knowing that Micah Parsons has the speed, and another is matching that speed in the playing field. But then the point that James Foster makes, that we maybe don't talk too much about this, but Micah had an actual pass rushing toolbox. He was not only using speed to beat offensive tackles. And James Foster, if you go watch the video, he will actually point out how one of his best moves was a counter to that speed move. So that inside counter in which he crosses over the offensive tackle's face and gets to the quarterback via the C gap, right? So inside of the B gap, inside of the tackle, between the guard and the tackle. So true or false, he will be even better in year 2. Toxic Tom says, do you mean skill-wise or statistically? I am talking about the player. Will he be better? Will the Cowboys be able to do even more stuff with Micah Parsons? And will he prove to be more than a one-year wonder, right? And pretty much every answer right now is a positive one. Jose, Gregory, Adam, John Jones, D. Shift, Bruce got the toxic use, Gilbert on Facebook. All of you are saying yes. Toxic Tom says he might see a slight regression in stats. Hey, I'll agree to that. It was a high number of sacks for Micah Parsons, but I think he will really reach that next level as a defensive player. And even as a pass rusher, man, I don't know if he will have a lower pressure rate. That was something special. Highest pressure rate since 2016, but he might get close to it once more. He really will get close to it, I believe. Jaybird says, Micah will be focused on especially game 1, but that man is a lion. He will eat and get 13 plus sacks. There you go. 6 to Midnight says, did you play football, Mo? I played 1 year of high school football. Here's my flash story for you guys. My career as a football player. I've been obsessed with football ever since I can remember, right? Like truly obsessed. My mom never allowed me to play football. She never did. And one of my best friends played football, and he was so good, man. Always wanted to play football. It wasn't until high school when I finally, felt like enough of a rebel to say, you know what? I don't care. I will play football. Signed up for the team. Started playing, was a third string running back of the team. Earned my way into special teams because I was one of the fastest players on the team. It was between me and a cornerback who ended up being actually a pretty good player nationally at the college level here in Mexico. And I came from a track and field background. So, I was one of the fastest players, was a gunner, was the number 1 in the kickoff kickoff unit, and ended up tearing my ACL. And my mom was right all along. I was going to get hurt. I was bound to get hurt. And then I didn't even, I just felt like I checked that box. I played football. That's what I wanted to do. That's my football story. There you go. I think I showed you the picture not that long ago when we talked about Cavante Turpin. It's a pretty funny picture because I look tiny. And then, because I'm short man committee, as Skywalker Steel says. And, there's these 2 towering tackles. Toxic Tom says, Mo, can we hear your Taco Charlton story? That's a good story. Not yet, Toxic Tom. One day, I promise you, one day I will tell you my Taco Charlton story. It involves a curse. It involves a DM. That's all I can tell you now. Someday I will tell you my Taco Charlton story. I don't know when though. That's all you get. You get a teaser. Yeah, man. Herd mode towers over Turpin. There you go. Anyways, before we get out of here, some of your comments, man. It's hard to keep a straight face when doing some of these shows, not going to lie. Before we get out of here, Mike McCarthy was roasted, man, in the Athletic Football Show. And I want to play this clip for you just before we get out of here because I enjoyed it a lot. I laughed a lot. And I wanted to show you guys it on tonight's show. So this is Nate Tice and Robert Mays. Robert Mays is the first one speaking. It's a great podcast. I do recommend you listen to it. The Athletic Football Show. They get into a lot of X's and O's stuff. That's the reason why I love it. Nate Tice is a former Wisconsin Badger quarterback, son of a successful football coach. And they were talking about the top 10 offenses in the NFL for the 2022 season. Nate Tice has the Cowboys in his top 10. Robert Mays does not. And he's talking about some of those concerns. You know, the usual stuff that we have been talking about for months. The swing tackle situation, the wide receivers, and of course, the coaching staff.
I have some concerns about what happens if they move one or two pieces up front. And that combined with the skill position talent and the fact that I have my reservations about this offensive coaching staff still.
I was just about to crack a joke. I go, every time I get excited, I always remember, oh yeah, Mike McCarthy's still there. And I know he's not calling plays and whatnot, but it's still that stank is still
when
like
I turned down Mike McCarthy Way last night. I just started laughing. My hotel was right off Mike McCarthy Way in Green Bay.
Named it.
And it's just, I hear the GPS, turn left on Mike McCarthy Way. That's hilarious.
That is really funny. Did you see the shed where he studied, all the stuff that got him the Cowboys job? When he did the analytics deep dive camp that he was doing that one year? Did you drive by that?
My understanding is he lives in like a 100 acres.
There you go. Man, I laughed so bad at the Mike McCarthy Way in Lambeau Stadium. So they had this Mike McCarthy Way. So, they named a street after him and they're just laughing at the fact that exists. It's funny, man, because he did win that Super Bowl with the Green Bay Packers. It's such a weird storyline for Mike McCarthy. And we'll see if they can change the storyline. Maybe another reminder of the scrutiny that the Cowboys coaching staff should be under in the 2022 season. I wanted to share that with you. Let's see, before we get out of here, let's see. Professor O, bro, that one guy's voice is what people probably think I sound like before they actually hear me. Probably means Robert Mays because he has this very specific voice. I agree. Let's see, man, I want the Cowboys to win a Super Bowl to shut up the media. That stank. Yeah, Toxic Tom. That when he said that stank, I was just laughing. I was driving and I was laughing, man. But hopefully, as Jose says, they shut us up and the Cowboys and Mike McCarthy and Kellen Moore go out there and really just solidify themselves as successful coaches. We'll see if that happens. But anyways, ladies and gentlemen, I will see you tomorrow night. Thank you guys for tuning into tonight's show. Do me a favor, hit the like button, share the stream. If you're watching on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter, let your friends know about Primetime. Also, check out adcsports.com/Dallas. We've got new articles up there every single day of the week. Also, remember, Primetime is brought to you by our friends over at freemanmazda.net. Tomorrow night, we've got One Cool Thing. Once more, we haven't done that in a while now. We'll talk about some interesting stuff regarding the Dallas Cowboys, and I hope that you enjoy your Monday night. It's just Monday now. I don't know why I feel like it's Tuesday or Wednesday. I do have a very one cool thing, though, to share with you tomorrow night. I will see you. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining the show. Bye-bye.